Welcome, everyone. So delighted to have been invited here to discuss Cannes Lions and the kind of creative that came out of it, and even more delighted to be joined by some very special people in our McCann family. So joining me today is from McCann India is Ashish, Sambit, and Rathish. And what's exciting about today is they're actually going to be sharing some behind the scenes story of their very own gold lion, something that I can't wait to hear about, because often how a lion is won, how the idea is created, is just as fascinating, if not more fascinating, than the kind of output that comes out and what that idea became. But before that, we wanted to have a roundtable discussion amongst the four of us about, what we saw at Cannes this year, what we learned, what we can take away from that. It was a very unique Cannes. It was the first in-person one. There'd been 2 years, 1 year where it was cancelled, and then last year it was remote. So that was an even stranger Cannes festival. And so this one was quite unique because it was the first one back. How had creativity changed from the pandemic? What work was winning? Is there a shift in what's being created? So please feel free to kind of engage and share reactions in the chat. Your mics will be only enabled during Q&A at the end. But hopefully we'll have enough time to have a great discussion with everyone on the call as well. So please fire your questions away. So before we kind of get into this discussion, Cannes Lions, whether we like it or not, it is the benchmark of our industry. It's kind of the pinnacle of international creativity. And, no matter what people might say about that, it's proven in how many entries they are. This year alone, there was 25,464 entries, and those entries came from 87 countries, which is incredible. That is such a spread. And to break down APAC, to show how important it is here, how agencies and companies take it serious in APAC, there were over 4,000 entries just from APAC of that 25,500. And to break that down further, there was, 921 from India, which were the highest entrants, 540 from Japan, 460 from China, and even Singapore, which we may consider a fairly small place, but there was over 300 entries from Singapore as well. Now, that tells you that a lot of people enter, but what tells you just how hard it is to win a lion, and why so many people, they go their entire careers and have fantastic careers, but never manage quite to get on that top step and win a lion, is from the 4,000 entries in APAC, we see that only 104 lions were awarded to APAC agencies. India came out on top there, 46 lions. Then Australia with 16, Japan with 10, and then we're already into the single figures. China with 9, tied with New Zealand. It's so tough. It's so tough, and that's something that we want to unpack and discuss today. And how we wanted to do that is, we've only got a short time, so the four of us together with Perrine, we've curated a small selection of winners, and we want to play those to you now. And then that's going to basically trigger our conversation that we want to have around, what we took away from these particular entries and what we think they tell us about, what the judges liked, but also what we need to look for going into 2023 as well, as we prepare for the next season of award shows. We were just talking about this before we came on, about how we've only just taken our breath, but we're back onto it. What have we got that's coming into the next year that's going to excite us and hopefully get us some more lions in APAC especially. So Perrine, are you okay to start the reel of entries?
I've been eating human meat for quite some time now.
I'm eating a human.
I'm not crazy.
Did I just eat a Swede?
name is Eric, and I work in the food industry. Technology has been advancing so that now we can actually grow meat in the lab. To make sure that we get the right amino acids and right proteins, ideally, we should eat human proteins.
What is the idea exactly?
So what I want to do is that I want to grow human meat and sell that.
Human.
But I want to take it a step further. Swedes, for example, we love being out in nature. We care about the environment. We don't use a lot of chemicals. We don't use a lot of antibiotics to our animals. You get this entire package by eating Sweden. Yeah.
Are you saying to...
Are you asking me to eat Alexander Skarsgård?
Yes. Guess who's having a meeting with Alexander Skarsgård?
Mitt kött man kan äta mig.
Jajamän.
Du är så jävla sjuk i huvudet.
But I'm not giving up. I will have the world to eat sweet.
The British Museum is a public institution dedicated to human history, art and culture. Come discover over 80,000 works from around the world, here in London. You are now viewing the Greagle Shield. Captain James Cook was a British event.
We're now looking at the Greagle Shield, which was taken from my people.
Collections in the British museums are premised on a simple idea. I'm proud of what my grandfather stole from yours.
The Rosetta Stone was not a discovery neither of the French, neither of the British. It was already discovered and reused in Egypt multiple times.
For us, it's not just a well-carved rock, it is a living ancestor.
This very important statue is on display in a museum thousands of miles away.
Say the British Museum is the world's largest receiver of stolen goods. We're launching an interactive tour of some of its most contested artifacts, plus a podcast series featuring voices from the countries they were taken from.
There is always a story behind every object that was made in the kingdom, and that is how we told our history.
There were two foreign powers in rivalry over Egypt. One of them won over the other, and they took the war spoils of the other.
I feel I've received a balanced narrative.
For many Assyrians, it was maybe the last time we could really stand up to people who were trying to bully us.
We sort of went around the world and took what we wanted, and it makes me feel a deep level of shame.
Museums around Europe are slowly realizing that exhibiting items taken by force hundreds of years ago from other countries is kind of gross. And it's about time. We can't change the past, but we can change how we engage with it in the present.
Packaging is the face of a brand. But in India, it's also the face of plastic pollution.
Plastic is on the streets, in the oceans, the mountains.
1,000 tons of plastic.
And the uncomfortable truth is that some of it has got our name on it, and that is not okay with us.
With Unilever liquid product packaging reaching 9 out of 10 Indian households, we needed a sustainable business transformation. So we sacrificed our most valuable branding asset, our packaging. Introducing Smart Fill, an in-store experience that lets our customers buy Unilever liquid products while reusing other brands' plastic waste. From old packs to soda bottles to even competing packaging. A new business model inspired by the common Indian practice of repurposing. Product dispensing stations were placed across main retail stores in India. Customers just had to select a product, enter the desired amount, Smart Fill, and add a barcode to pay for the exact amount of product taken. Every product at a discounted price, allowing people to save not only on packaging costs, but by purchasing smaller amounts, leading to an increase of product trial. In a country with one of the world's largest populations, the global impact was noted and appreciated.
In an industry-first move, HUL is offering its customers with an opportunity to reuse their already used plastic bottles and refill it with home care products.
At Unilever, we're rethinking the way that we use plastic packaging in our products. You could say we're getting drastic with plastic.
A new sustainable commerce model that gradually cuts the production of liquid product packaging, giving a smarter and better solution for our shoppers and our planet.
Hi, may I take your order?
In 2021, the WHO estimated 400 million dengue cases in India per year. The number of cases have increased over 30-fold in the last 5 decades. While Indians use mosquito-repelling coils inside the house, the real problem lies outside. Garbage collection points in India are breeding grounds for mosquitoes because all they need is just 1 centimeter of water to lay their eggs. While we can't change the garbage situation in India, we can stop mosquitoes from breeding in them. Introducing the Killer Pack. A pack when disposed kills mosquito larvae outside the house, while the non-toxic coil fights mosquitoes inside, breaking the vicious cycle. The 100% biodegradable packaging is lined and printed with 5% active probiotic Bacillus thuringiensis that acts against mosquito larvae. This pack disintegrates into water and moist environments when disposed in places like garbage dumps, dustbins, garden ponds, stagnant water, and stormwater drains. This strain is approved and recommended by the WHO, the CDC, the ICMR, and the EPA, while causing no harm to birds, dogs, or any other species. We launched this packaging in the hot pockets of India, where major mosquito-related diseases were on the rise.
જેટલા વધુ મચ્છરો તેટલા વધુ પ્રમાણમાં કિલર પેકનો ઉપયોગ થશે અને તેનો નિકાલ કરવામાં આવશે. ખરેખર મારા મત મુજબ આ એક ખૂબ જ સહેલી અને સ્વયં સંચાલિત પ્રક્રિયા છે.
The Killer Pack kills mosquitoes inside and out.
Lately, you hear a lot about Apple's
walled garden. Walled garden. Walled garden.
To lock in users to its walled garden.
A billion-dollar battle royale between Apple and Epic Games. How about his next one? Samsung, they did something. If you and I were from the UK, we would say that they did something cheeky.
I'm not really used to Android. I never had an Android device, but here we have now the chance to experience Android on our iPhones.
Yes, you heard that right. When I click next and watch this, you click let's go and look at the phone. This is pretty crazy.
Now, if you've been with iPhone for a long time and it's all you really know, then that could be stopping you from even stepping into the Android ecosystem. And that's what Samsung is trying to fix today.
It's buttery smooth, guys. You have the side cards, the Google search up top. This is insane. I'm getting notifications.
Welcome to the other side.
It's just really fun. Like, everything has something unique when you click on it.
You can launch apps, you can tap on widgets.
You can even change themes. So right now I have this theme on, I'm gonna hit apply and it'll change over to this theme just like you would on any other Galaxy phone.
There's a camera tutorial from photographer Logan Dodds.
And even a fully functional game.
These are my top 5 favorite new iOS apps to hit the App Store during the month of April 2021.
Obviously, they're not going to put this into the App Store because, imagine Android on the App Store.
If you want to try this out for yourself, just head over to itest.nz and you'll be immediately prompted to add this website as a shortcut to your home screen.
What do you think about this, Will? Is this brilliant marketing? Is this cheeky in a good way or cheeky in a bad way?
I think it's cheeky in a good way.
So not shots fired?
Well, I mean, if you're rocking an iPhone, you gotta try this. I love technology.
Right, fantastic. So a great body of work there. So great to welcome the guys to the table now. So I just want to start really with, obviously that was quite a, there was a good mix there. We tried to put in a few, APAC winners there just to give a flavor for us as a region. But I wanted to start with Eat a Swede, the first thing we showed there. That was actually from McCann, Sweden, but it was a collective effort from a lot of IPG entities in Europe. Now, in Cannes, often towards the end of the week, we do a global CLC, and it's more of a wash up around, what did people immediately learn? What did they not? Why did something work? Why did it not? And the general consensus with why Eat a Swede did so well and got that Grand Prix was because it kind of broke the formula. There seemed to be a lot of cute ideas out there, but the formula of news headlines, problem, solution, showing a kind of cute idea in that first 30 seconds, that seemed to be quite a tired formula there. I know Ashish and Sambit, you were there in Cannes. Is that something that you felt when you were walking around the work? Was there a bit of a formula that was starting to feel tired there, where work like Eat a Swede, where it had that shock factor, was bringing a new flavor to stuff?
I certainly feel that they treated it like a mock documentary, and that certainly, I think, has worked well for them, rather than opening with it got so many media impressions and this happened and that happened. They treated it like a mock documentary, and actually they entered it in, I think, 1 or 2 festivals as well, where it was picked up. I think the idea itself was something which is, for lack of a better word, it is gory. And also, questions of morality, ethics, and the fact that, in a way it is encouraging cannibalism. So it was bound to raise a lot of eyebrows. And I think it drew attention to the fact that, we need to be more sustainable in terms of producing our food. It drew the attention to that fact in a very subversive way, and I think that's why it worked. But overall, it was packaged very nicely as a mockumentary, and I think that really did the trick for them.
had that fresh take.
Yeah. So see, when you talk about that, that from a sea of sameness. So every year, every sort of a few years, you tend to see a trend. I would call it more like a trend. So yeah, this year it was a little more of social and a little more of helping the world, and that sort of more than other years, perhaps, especially the work that came out of the region in our part of the world here. So in that sense, of course, it was completely different. But it was pushing on the for me, apart from the packaging. I mean, usually most of the cases are packaged pretty well. They tell a story. It pushed the morality. It's what it means to be a human. That sort of a thing. Is it a? It's sometimes you get a sense that is it a great idea or have you pushed it too much? Have you sort of gone across to the dark side? So it sort of lingers over there, and which is perhaps why it generated the kind of conversations, the kind of engagements that it did. It's an outrageous idea in that sense. And it did get people. So in fact, I think on my third viewing, or maybe the second one, if you miss the initial bit that it's actually a mockumentary, that they have created the Eric, it's very, very rightly, you can completely miss that entire picture, and you think that they've actually gone ahead and created something like this. I mean, it's a Frankenstein in which case. But then you get it, and then it sort of opens up and says, "Wow!" I mean, it's there, but still there is always a sense that have they gone too far?
The only thing which was surprising for me, right, Ashish, is that what they haven't shown is maybe someone really took them up on it, and which is of course what hasn't been depicted in the film. But given the kind of sensationalism that thrives in today's world, I won't be surprised if someone actually took up Eric on it and said it sounds like a doable idea. Let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah. Ashish, you kind of touched on something there that was another topic. Solution-led creativity was big once again from an environment and social inclusion perspective. Do we think this kind of summer of extreme weather will continue that trend into next year, or is this just advertising over the last few years will continue to try and show it has a conscience? Do we feel this trend is going to continue?
So my sense is that we saw the rise of it from a few. I mean, technically it has always been around. If you remember back in the good days, here's my dead dog, where's my award? That used to be a very famous print ad back in the day. But I sense that we are reacting nicely. We are reacting in a very human way to warm stories. More than the solution, it is the solution, but it's also how they have sort of packaged the solution to tell a story. And lastly, on the large scale impact of it, there were other ideas. There are many other ideas which are doing social good, but what we are finding is the ones that are winning is that which seems to have created a larger impact. It's beyond a few people. It almost seems like it's going to change society for good. It's going to sort of make some very sort of positive places, be it in environment, inclusion, gender. So I sense, so sustainability. So I sense that it's going to be here for some time, but like fashion, you never know. Maybe it's black next year.
Rathish, an art man at heart, we did throw in the Pepsi campaign there. Something about that campaign, it felt like a throwback, but it felt quite fresh and contemporary in the same feeling. Can you kind of talk about what you felt about that? And
I mean, it's a pure art delight to see a work like that, right? I mean, it's coming in from a hidden sort of an element which you normally spot as an art director, but sometimes the brand doesn't allow you to do that. But here with Pepsi, you could do it because whether it's Burger King or Wendy's or the other one, McD. I mean, they had the color play of blue and red, right? So which they could manage to kind of cleverly make a Pepsi logo with that, right? So it is beautiful as an art piece. I mean, it's like you said, it's a throwback of what we used to do as art people when we were really young there, trying to kind of put this kind of work together. And someone is doing it at this age where great case studies are being made, right? Like the Unfiltered History Tour and stuff like that, which also picked up quite a lot. But in this one, simplicity never goes out of fashion, right? Tomorrow it will be black, but today the simplicity is always the king.
Yeah, I think what I liked about that as well is it wasn't a print ad. It actually went across channels, right? Because it's simplicity. It didn't need the copy and the logo in this particular area. It didn't need to run in this particular media. It kind of just took on a life of its own beyond, where the nucleus started. Right, it was nice. Another thing I wanted to talk about while we're, looking around the festival and looking at the Samsung eye test, right? NFTs versus tech solutions here. Now, that was loved and really well received, the Samsung eye test, but NFTs actually bombed at Cannes. And from the research I was doing and jury members I was talking to, there's a lot of NFT work there, but it just didn't really, snowball while we were there. Is that because people feel that's a fad? Is that a trend? Is people looking for genuine technology marketing that has that cleverness and that freshness to it rather than jumping on a trend?
So on this one, see, again, what is the story? There is a technology bit, which is absolutely interesting, but it's a cheeky thing. It's like, I think the gentleman pointed out, it's a cheeky thing. It's classic Coke versus Pepsi. You've taken the Mickey out of a very sort of a brand which is sort of held in higher esteem and has its own sort of followers. And you have this guy who has sort of, walked into your thing and, rubbed you on the face and walked out. I think everyone understands that the Samsung versus that Apple kind of a conflict over there, and one knows what Apple stands for. And at the same time, someone has they have out-Appled Apple in that sense. If you looked at the earlier work of Mac versus PC, there, it was sort of in the other way around. So what I thought that the human story of somebody cheekily walking into your door and scratching its name on it and walking out is and using technology to do so is what is delightful to me about it.
Right. And we just need to wrap up here because of time. So is there one shout out that you each want to give in terms of the piece of work that stood out to you?
I'll just go on this one because I know the other ones my friends might just sort of pick it, so I'll go first. I have to talk about the the unfiltered tour coming from India, and in fact, any Commonwealth country, anybody who has been under Britain, sort of it's an idea that has been around our countries for years. I remember this cartoon some years back they ran where the British Museum was surrounded by yellow lines and said it's a crime area. So it has been part of our sort of thing. Now someone just takes technology and instead of takes that story which is like having been there in the part and pulls it out and makes it out into an experiential kind of a thing, and it is no longer staying within the floors of Commonwealth countries or countries which have been ruled by Britain, but it makes it into a larger sort of a conversation where anyone can sort of understand that where it's coming from. And the second thing, it was bang on the brand. Vice has been known for subversive sort of activities and actions and advertising like this. So it was bang on brand. It took something that existed, gave it an experiential thing, and it just totally wowed, I think, everyone.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Sorry, I was just saying that was the one. Unfiltered History was the one that everyone was talking about. Every cafe or talk, that was what people were talking about, right?
Indeed. And also because I think it had a lot of cultural currency, and I think Greece has been after Britain to return the Elgin marbles. And in a way, I don't know whether it was the effect of the Unfiltered History tour, but very recently, I think one museum in Britain has agreed to return the Benin bronzes back to, I think, Ivory Coast or wherever they were taken from. So yes, as Ashish pointed out, there has been a lot of conversation about cultural appropriation, and I think it was smack bang on brief for Vice also to pick up this topic, which had it was being discussed off and on over the years, but then it really picked up steam, and no wonder the sackload of awards came through.
Yeah. Rahish, do you want to throw your?
Yeah, I think
are we all in agreement here?
You've said it already. Yeah, it's that one work which you wish you had done, right? It's that. It's better with Pepsi any day for me this year. Yeah.
Right. Can I add something right here? Because there is another work. It's a very small piece of work, but again, and I think there's a learning there. Is the Unilever work. Now, again, in India, we have had a culture of recycling. In fact, in older times, your milk bottles to things were always you never got a pack. So packaging actually came much later to India. So in shops and then things still across the country, you will see that milk bottle you give and you get a fresh bottle back. You give your old oil and they fill it up. But here is a major brand, again using technology to pick up a part of what is inherently in a culture and using it to a much wider and a much bigger scale. I think there is something to be said because they're both these pieces to me represented that.
Right. Yeah, so true. So true. Fantastic. Well, we could talk all day. We did when we were having the regroup before this about the work, which is fantastic. But we need to move on because we need to talk about your very own gold, which McCann India pulled out of the bag for APAC. It was for Shagun Ka Lifafa. I've been practicing that before the call, everyone. So this won a gold in creative commerce, which was the first year this category existed. Super impressive work. So I think we should play the case study, and then everyone is certainly here for you guys to share your insights and thoughts on how this came to be. So, Parina, are we okay to play the film?
Across the world, women lack access to financial services. In a ranking of 156 countries, India ranked 140. In poorer households, it's even worse. Traditionally, men are in charge of the household finances. They oversee most monetary aspects, including access to the bank account. As a result, women have accepted their role not to be financially independent, without realizing the consequences.
आदमी सब देख लेते, हमारा क्या है, कुछ चाहिए तो मांग लेते हैं.
Ujjivan, a small finance bank that caters only to the financially weaker sections, wanted to change this. So we went to the very start, the day of their wedding. Shagun, a tradition of giving coins as part of cash gifts to a newlywed couple. In a special envelope called Shagun Ka Lifafa. These specially designed envelopes come with an attached 1 rupee coin and are readily available across the country. We transformed these Shagun Ka Lifafas into account opening forms. All she had to do is fill the form and deposit just that 1 rupee coin to open a bank account. These transformed envelopes were made freely available in shops where they have always been stocked. And Shagun Ka Lifafas made their way to weddings across India, empowering 232,000 women towards financial equality.
Amazing stuff. Congrats. Thank
you.
Ashish, I think you were going to kick us off with some thoughts on your end, right?
Right. So I actually want to roll back from the idea to the the creation of ideas like this. I want to talk about a thing that we have in McCann India. We call it manthan. What it literally means is churn, to churn. It's like when you churn milk, you get the butter rises. So that's the process that we have. It borrows from our Indian mythology, where the gods churned the ocean and out of which came the nectar and which made the gods immortal. So we have taken it from our own sort of philosophy, our history, our mythology, and created this. What we do is that, and this particular case came out of one such manthan, is we have 3 offices, as you know. We have Bombay, we have Bangalore, we have Delhi. So a couple of times a year, we get in all the creative folks all in together in a room physically, sort of, and putting it together. And we get in all the briefs, we get in the opportunities, we get in a client that wants to sort of do something in a certain area. We get all of that together, we divide it up into groups, and we get it into we churn. So every year sort of, that sort of gives us a kind of a host of, single sort of lots of starting points, a lot of great kind of starting points. And from there, what we do is we divide it up into teams, whichever team is working on something. And then irrespective of whichever branch or whichever sort of discipline, you could be from films, you could be from art, you could be from, some other kind of thing, but in creative thing. Prasoon is usually a part of the ones that we do in the national level, maybe twice a year. Last 2 years, we didn't have many of them because of the pandemic. And we, while we had tried to do a few online, it was never really as electrifying as really in the presence of it. And then we craft, we get into the teams, we huddle, we break out into sort of a thing, and then over the year we get in the client. If it's a real sort of a straight up brief, we get them in, involve them in earlier, and we kind of travel with them along that line. So that is on how the entire sort of process happens for McCann in India. We've been fairly successful in our earlier sort of a thing, 2 years of pandemic, and this was again 1 year we sort of started. On specifically on this one, of course, I mean, it's a, what it does, as you see that it's something that is there in the culture. And it's one of those unique things that is, India is a very diverse sort of a country. You will have north, south, east, west, different kind of things. This one is ubiquitous. You can see it across the country. This thing about gifting this in a coin, this little token, that what we call it, a good omen. So this is there across the country. So this was a cultural thing which was there. And then one converted that to use it to a call which is very, very universal. A financial inequality for women is not something that just exists in our part of the world. It's across the world. In fact, at Cannes, a journalist asked me that, among all the work that won in India, this particular piece is perhaps the only one which would work only in India, because it's not even South Asia. It's something that happens only in our country specifically. So it took that, transferred it into into something that communicated, and of course one crafted the living daylights out of it, because it is so nuanced that it was important for us, for a Cannes audience, once we actually executed the work to create the film, to create the AV, that one understood the context it operates in, because at a superficial level one could miss that out. And last, I would say that it was again smack on brand, because the brand that we, that partnered us with it is Ujjivan. It's what we call the microfinance bank. It operates for the poorest of poor, what we call the unserved and the underserved people of India. It's people who operate, your things in coins. They would get whatever is their vegetable vendors, poor people, who would deposit in small change. So it's for them. So therefore, it was very, very apt. It's a very large brand, very known brand in India, big brand in India, but it operates at that. And therefore, we thought that it sort of gelled in very well together. I think the client is Rathish and Sambit will tell you. I think they are taking it across in a very big way on this one. And I think I would put it to Sambit to get onto the nuances perhaps of the case.
Yeah, great. Sambit.
No, I think Ashish has summed up how we sort of arrived at it. I think when we started engaging with Ujjivan on this, I think they had sort of hit in a way the number of new. It's a bank, right? So they need more and more registrations, more and more people opening accounts. And in this case also, I think specifically they were also noticing that mostly men were opening accounts and not so much women, and they wanted to do something about this. And so it was, in a sense, a brief which was open-ended, that they did not want to do a thematic campaign for summer or anything like that. It was very specifically that they had hit a plateau and they wanted to increase the number of registrations of accounts, and which is how our engagement with them started. And Lakshman, who's the brand head at Ujjivan's end, so he had given us a brief. In a way, I think it also helped that Ujjivan is a brand which we handle out of Bangalore, so we are more familiar with the intricacies of the brand, who it reaches out to, who the TG is, so on and so forth. And so I think it was an idea waiting to happen, because we felt that the source of it was the weddings, and which is what is pointed out in the case study as well, that we go to the root of the issue and we ensure that women are empowered right from the start, from the beginning of their conjugal, the married life, and not somewhere further down the down that journey, right? Um, and also India is a deeply patriarchal society where women are literally helpless in the sense that they're like, we will, it's up to the man to give us money if we need it. So we wanted to correct that and make it and ensure that whatever money that they're receiving as part of their wedding gifts, they don't have to deposit all of it. All they need to deposit is that 1 rupee as a token. I think that was also a big incentive, for them to open that account, that you don't need to deposit a minimum amount of cash, only that 1 rupee, even if you just peel it off the envelope and walk into the bank with that account opening form, that itself is enough for you to be able to open the account. And I think that really worked well, the simplicity of it. Yeah.
And at that, if I may just add, as is at the heart of the idea, that is that just that one coin, it sort of dramatizes that you just need that much. And when one, coupled with the fact that the form is right there, you take it, somebody may take away the rest of the money, but that one coin is enough for you to, get on a path of financial equality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those barriers gone. Rathish, could you talk about executing that idea, because it's not good enough to just have a great idea. That the craft and the follow through of that execution is so important when it comes to something like this.
Dan, there were a lot of stages to the execution, right? So firstly, because we are talking about a certain life event called wedding, and there is a certain season in India, right, where wedding season normally happens in like early summer, and it kind of spills over to late summer. So we targeting like somewhere around May, June, July to do this activity. So it's like we had a 3-month plan in like in discussion with the client that we'll do it in certain geographies, right? So we picked across north, south, east, and west. We picked like 4 places where we wanted to do it. I mean, all of it like small towns and villages and stuff like that, because the bank caters to an audience like that, right? So we identified few places. That was the first part of it, like where we do it and when, right? And then the second part of it is actually coming in from the design itself. No, now if you see the lifafa by itself, it's a thing which is available across the country, like how Ashish was pointing out. So it's important for us to retain the design like the way it is familiar, right? So it's a certain relatability aspect of that Shagun Ka Lifafa, that if you bring in a new kind of a design, people will be, hey, what is this now, right? So we wanted to kind of retain the same form, but add that extra bit of functionality to it, right? That came in from this particular form, which we actually kind of put it in the back of the print of the envelope, right? The envelope itself came in multiple colors. There were special prints, right? Like all of that were carefully picked, and then we just recreated the whole design. Then we had to put this form like right in the middle of when you open the envelope, right? So that got like picked up well, and then we had to implement it, like like in the case study it clearly talks about how we had to go one shop at a time and make sure that like all the traditional lifafas were replaced with our own lifafas, right? So that was one thing which the client also had to do alongside reaching out, because it was easy for them because the bank had a presence in that particular market. So all they need to do was to tie up with some local vendors and get it done. Yeah, and the rest is history. So we have a case study which kind of came after that. Photographers, yeah, I mean, it's an important part of it, because if you see the lot of content which is kind of going into the case study video was actually curated by the photographers, right? We wanted someone to be there at that event to capture this particular moment of like, someone gifting a newlywed couple, in this case, the woman, Shagun Ka Lifafa. So we had photographers who doubled up as your DOPs for this one, right? So they took all these pictures and footages and all of that, and that's how we stitched the case study also together.
I would just want to add, I hope Karthik is watching, the writer who had to write, I think, 25 or 27 times the argument all over again and again and again, till we got the pitch fitted into the into the duration. I don't know if he's here, but yeah, so that definitely also added to get it
I'll give
just
that
right.
a round of applause emoji myself.
Yep. We had to join a lot of dots and ensure
Yes.
that the picture wasn't garbled. So
yeah, well, fantastic work. I mean, and describe that feeling when that gold, you find out about that gold, all that work that you've put in. What's that feel like? How did you feel when you found out that it was gold and you were going to be going on stage to collect that?
Should I confess to you about, should I let out the secret, Sambit?
No, please.
So, Sambit, I think Prasoon called. We got a sort of a sense that it's going to be winning gold, and he called us up, and I'm told that Sambit cried. So
Yeah, I
I'll,
broke down. It was a very emotional moment.
he broke
I
down.
thought I'd be very blasé about it. That, oh, okay, I won, I won a gold. But yeah, I mean, possibly, okay, I've got a silver and a bronze before, but never a gold. So gold is always special. And so it was a very emotional moment, I think, for all of us. But yeah, I could control my tears. Yeah.
Well, if you can't do it, then when can you, eh?
True. I also feel that, just to sort of add, I also feel that our case study for the design was not as tip as this one was, because it definitely was also a design entry.
Yes.
And because it was a design created to match something and yet stand out. So I think we slightly sort of missed, and I was a little more also hopeful that it will also pick up something in design.
Yeah, because we recreated close to around 150 odd Shagunka lifafas which already existed in the market, right? So it is like, taking a certain form which already exists and adding that bit of functionality. So we thought it could be a good entry in design as well, right? So because, matching something in terms of what is already available and giving a purpose to it was something we thought as a good case, right, for design, but it didn't convert.
And on the feeling, I'll just say that, walking up on the stage every time, it's always, it's fantastic.
Yeah, great. Now I'm getting in the ear here from Pareen that we need to get to Q&A here.
Right.
So if you do have questions, for the guys or about Can, then please share. I think we've got a couple already, Pareen, right? Have we? I'm looking through. Okay, got a question here. Given how sexy the whole metaverse conversation is, did you see any good cases that did well in that space? And do you see that as the next frontier when it of Can cases in the next few years? Who'd like to answer that one?
Sambit, go for it.
I think the metaverse has, it's an idea whose time is yet to come. We have just embarked on that journey. The only idea which sort of, I think, stood out for me was this Thai ad, and it was a pretty long one. I think it's a 2-minute long ad.
Metaverse.
But I think they're parodying the metaverse. I think it was for a credit card. I forget the name of the bank. But it was an actual, it is a spoof in which there is this brand manager and the poor creative directors who are standing alongside her, and they're creating this first ad which is meant for the first film which is meant for the metaverse, and how everything that can go wrong actually does go wrong, and still they manage to sort of plug the credit card at the end of the day. But in terms of you actually using the metaverse as a medium, I think it is still very nascent. We still have a long way to go before brands pick up and actually make a meal out of it. I think another one which sort of stood out for me, I think, is also the launch of the Heineken beer. I think the first beer on the metaverse that they launched, that you could not taste or you could not actually hold, but that's also something which stood out.
So see, any to answer just on any new technology that comes in becomes a toy, and you play around with it initially. Sort of, if you remember how AR and VR were in the things, just using it just as the delight of technology. But eventually, it will come to how creatively you are able to use it, what sort of stories you are able to. It becomes a tool. So eventually, it will. I guess it will go down to that.
Yeah, I think just to add to that as well, there's a huge debate raging whether the metaverse exists or not. A lot of people say it's just creating worlds in multiplayer games, and we've just marketing as usual has changed, but McCann created its own world where we presented our work. I think Dentsu recreated their beach at Cannes. So it was very much a topic, a buzz was around that there, but it's very obvious. I think, like Sambit said, we're very early in that stage. So where it goes, who knows? It probably will become something bigger, but it still feels quite gimmicky at the moment, right? I keep calling it like it's like we're on PlayStation 5, but the graphics in the metaverse campaigns are like PlayStation 2, right? It's very novelty.
So McCann India actually had, if you remember some years back, Second Life, which is like a a slighter sort of older version. So McCann India had its office on Second Life. Our work, everything was shown. A client could walk in, but one was doing that. I mean, I think about 10 years back when Second Life was big equally.
Well, another question here is: can creativity win without integrating technology, given how the industry is seduced by that? Now, I think your campaign itself is a perfect example there of taking something that is as ingrained in culture and tradition and really kind of using that as a vehicle for something important and meaningful there. So, and I think there was quite a few other campaigns around that were, playing in a very original or traditional non-technology place, right? Have we got any other questions here? How long do we have? We have 5 minutes. So I think we had some pre-questions here as well that were sent in. And I wanted to touch on, Sambit, on you actually have written an opinion piece about Cannes before, the Lions is King, period. Could you share a little bit about that? And what were you trying to get across with that piece?
Yeah, I feel, I think going to Cannes is like a pilgrimage of sorts, right? You go there hoping that your work is feted, it is celebrated, it is picked up. But for those people who are back home, they feel it's one big party, and it's going to be party time. And you're in the south of France. It's got lovely beaches, the promenade, beautiful people. You're lots of drinks flowing freely. So you're going to have a gala time. But I think anyone who's in advertising really knows that. So yes, there are two sides to everything, and though there is that glitzy side to it, the other side of it is you feel rotten as F if you don't pick up anything, right? So even if it is a shortlist, you are hoping and you're praying all the time that your work at least gets a shortlist, because there are so many entries. And Dan, as you pointed out right at the outset, that there are thousands of entries from across the world. 87 countries this year participated. So for even if your work is getting a shortlist, that also means something, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to pick up metal, but the fact that it is getting shortlisted also says a lot about your work having made it through so many other pieces of work which are all competing to be the best. The piece that I actually wrote was to highlight that yes, there is partying, but partying is not that there is all to it. You are also hoping that your work wins, and there is no greater joy than being up on stage or getting or seeing your work being talked about, for that matter. Yeah.
Right. So we have a few minutes left, and Parina's just dared anyone to turn on their mic and ask a question for the guys while we have them here. Oh, and the big man himself, Ghassan, has got his hand up here.
So hello, I don't have a question. Actually, I just want to thank you for a lovely session, an amazing really session. I've been watching, and obviously congratulations again one more time for winning. Hopefully next year, with the efforts of everyone, we're gonna have more people on stage from India and from other markets as well. China as well has been there. I think I just wanted to say those few words because I have very few opportunities to be able to talk to you all, that we're behind you. This company exists because of people like you, and we exist because of what you do. And we have very few times where we can recognize that. So please just ensure that we're all behind what you do, and we stand for creativity, and that's what we want to move on forward with it. And I enjoyed very much the conversation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Ghassan.
Thanks, Ghassan.
Thank you, Ghassan.
I'm waiting for Pareen to buzz me again to say that we need to wrap this up. We're on 4:59 Singapore time. So a quick closing statement. Rathish, it's your first ever win at Can I Believe? Is it not? Or did I misread that? But what I wanted to ask was the future of Can in one sentence. What does it look like? Is it still important? Is it changing?
You will stay hungry like a lion forever, right? There is no moment that we are actually going to go into a calm. So like, how the beginning of the conversation, we were all talking about preparation for the next year. So it actually started right after the day after Can, right? So, right, like, it's a never ending thing. Once you go for it, you just keep going for it.
Ashish, give us your statement. What would you say in a nutshell from Can 2022 and the future?
We need to win bigger. Again, we need to win bigger. That's it.
Sambit?
Yeah.
I would say purpose. I think we have sort of just scratched the surface with it. And as far as our brands are concerned, we have a fantastic set of brands. We just need to discover our purpose anew and showcase it to the world in a way that hasn't been done before. And I'm sure we'll win big.
Great. Thanks, guys. And then just to wrap, I'd say, be hungry. We're a network that is quite different from others. We're very small. You guys are not going to disappear. Reach out to these guys, ask them questions. What did they do? Show people within the network your ideas and your work. We've got a great regional team that are here to help as well. And I think collaboration is key for a market like us. We want to do well next year. I think it's about collaboration, community, and let's really go into 2023 with some great work and let's win. Let's try and win. Thanks, guys, for your time, and thanks everyone who joined.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan and team.
Thank you.